Greetings from the Erie Coast. This is Mad Chad. So, as you all may well know, I've touched on it. I've been writing books for a long time, 10 years, 11 years now. But one of the books, which I'm calling Ragnarok. I want to instead of writing it, which I seem to have some type of writer's block. I guess it's getting hit in the head too many times. But I used to be able to write stories and poems and things like that just off the cuff. It seems that it's getting a little bit more difficult now. So I think I'm going to orate it, since it seems to be my see, I can't even talk. My vehicle to get it out, my venue, because it plays over in my head like a movie, and then so it would be easier for me to watch the movie in my head and describe what I'm seeing. And try to do it in such a way that you can see the movie yourself with just a little bit of imagination. Books do the same thing. You read a book, your imagination takes hold, and off you go into the world of possibilities. So this book Ragnarok, basically, what if the Norse were right? So that's basically it. What if it's the Vikings? Yeah, and I tried to, and I used this. This came about with all the research I was doing into Norse, and I don't know. I guess part of the gamer in me is like, okay, you've got to set. These are the parameters. These are the attributes. These are the rules. And that's how it works. So that's what we're always looking for, right? What how does this work? So one of the short stories that I have, this story, it just the story in my head keeps taking side tracks, and I keep going down this side road instead of keeping with the main road. One of them is Bruce Lee. You guys know who that was. So, in Norse mythology, in Norse belief, is that there's two places you go. Well, three. Anyway, basically, there's two places that you go. If you're a great warrior and you die in battle, or if you're hung, meaning you were sacrificed to Odin, then you went to Valhalla, as known. But if you didn't, and you died of an old age or an accident or an ailment or something, then you go to Hell. Hell is in Niflheim, and it's to the goddess Hel. It's funny how a lot of things are cognate. Hell, good, God. Actually, it's God. God. But yeah, that word, God. Yeah. But yeah, and it all comes from the Norse pantheon, if you will, which, oddly enough, has some strange similarities with the Greek and some Proto-Indo-European influences, India as well. So it's kind of weird. When you start digging, you're like, wait a minute, what? And not to mention that everything from the Gaelic side as well. So anyway, once you see okay, I die. Okay, what if you were poisoned? What if you ate something or drank something and that's how you died? In Bruce Lee's case, that's how he died. So the premise of the story is that well, when Bruce Lee was born, you have these Nords. The Nords are basically three old ladies sitting at a pond, sitting at a pool at the steps of Yggdrasil, the life tree. That is an ash tree covered in ash, oddly enough, white tree, and they set this tree binds the 9 realms. We of course are in one realm, and there's 8 more, and so these Nords set, and they weave the fate of people. They read it, they weave it. They're responsible to know. They know everything about everyone and how they're going to live, how they're going to die, all that. So, and they make prophecies. And if you know how to talk to them or to get information from them, you can, glean that information. So the premise is that when Bruce Lee, because I also studied Bruce Lee as well, being a avid martial artist growing up, and obviously Bruce Lee is arguably the most willful and intentful martial artist that we've ever known. I mean, he dedicated his life and death to the craft, to the art, to it. So, a little bit of backstory about Bruce Lee. He was born in China, humble beginnings. Mommy and daddy, it was customary to, if your son fell between a certain bad sign, that it was believed that the demons would come to claim your firstborn son. So what they did is to confuse the demons, they christened it a female, a baby, female baby, and gave it a female name, and then after some time, boom, okay, you forget about it. You've confused the spirits, so to speak. So the idea is that the Nords prophesized that this great warrior was going to be born, and because this great warrior had such a strong will, he would negate fate. So, but he would still be a very powerful warrior. And so if you're fighting a war, which Odin and Hel were, they would both want him on their team. You want the biggest guns, you want the most powerful guns, you want everything. So these two were vying and jockeying for position to get a hold and make shape and mold Bruce Lee. And so that's the idea, is that, okay, great. And so Odin sets it up and says, all right, I'm going to get him. I'm going to, he's going to be a great warrior. I'm going to give him a chance to die in battle. But Hel had the goddess Hel. She would also play the game of, well, if I can't have them, you can't either. So she would try to kill babies of that nature that she found that, the Nords had prophesied would be great warriors or whatever. She would go ahead and find a way to kill them. And these are gods that are they don't really interfere, but they interfere through usurpations in sly ways, if you will, subtle ways. So, a disease or, something like that, maybe something, a stray bullet, a stray arrow, a car going way too fast because they influence, the whole demon thing. So that all kind of plays into it. Odin had his agents, Goddess Hel had her agents, and so they played the game and tried to, Hel would try to kill Bruce, which Bruce almost got killed a few times. He was also a dancer, but when he met Ip Man, the great Ip Man, he developed a love for martial arts that lasted his whole life, and he mastered Wing Chun and went on from there, and wushu and started his own, the Tao Jeet Kune Do, and revolutionized martial arts. So basically, he was a cutting edge warrior, at his time, and he only worked with things that worked. He knew what would work and what didn't. So that was do nothing which is of no use. And all the flashy moves. No, he went straight for the how can I hit someone so fast, so hard that they have no repercussion. And that was basically Bruce Lee. He was the fastest and he was the hardest hitting. So regardless of who they were. So you can ask anybody. You can ask Chuck Norris, Malcolm Jamal Warner, Muhammad Ali. I mean, a lot of people that dealt with him. Bill Superfoot Wallace, Benny the Jet Enriquez, all these guys that met and learned and hung out with Bruce Lee. Bill Onosanto, Dan Onosanto. All these guys. They had so much amazing things to say about Bruce. So he did grow up to be quite the warrior. He did fight in a battle where basically the old guard of China was like, you cannot teach the round eye our secrets. And Bruce Lee was like, yeah, I can do what the fuck I want. And they said, okay, cool, prove it. This is our best warrior that we brought from China, and we're going to meet in Chinatown somewhere, and you guys are going to battle and fight to the death or have a duel and see who wins. And like the movie said, he broke his back. Now, whether he broke his back in a fight or it was a car wreck or a motorcycle wreck, it's hard to say. But the fact still remains that he could have died. He could have been that could have been it for Mr. Bruce Lee. So later on in his life, he actually fought with demons. He had these demons, and it seemed that the whole idea of the demons were coming back to reclaim him. Like, oh, wait a minute, we made a mistake. We were supposed to get you when you born, and now here you are. So that was the whole idea and the whole premise. But we all kind of understand that it was probably the triads that got him. I don't know, but that's neither here nor there. And they poisoned him. He got poisoned. He was poisoned. And it took a long time for him to die, but when he eventually died and succumbed to the poison, he passed away, and it was one of the saddest moments in of that time. So, and his funeral was massive, and yes, he had a daughter and a son, and a wife, and of course we all know that his son died. That's another story, but because he actually did die in a movie being made. Somebody had a loaded gun they weren't supposed to have in a movie, and that's how Brandon Lee got shot in the movie. So, yeah, his daughter and his wife they carried on the legacy and carried on, but so Bruce Lee died not in battle. So one could say that hell had a hand in this, and that's the idea, is that hell, the goddess Hell, arranged this and had him killed so she could get him, had him poisoned. And so the idea is that when you die, you go to hell, and everyone in hell is under Hell's control. She has total control. She says jump, and you just do it. It's meter response order. She has total control. Mommy and daddy's there and everything. So the idea of hell, and it's a strange place. It's not a place of fire and brimstone. It's more of a place of cold and desolation. It said that her her plate is starvation, and her fork is pestilence, is desolation. Well, anyway, and she has a huge fortress slash mansion castle called Thunder. I forget, but she commands a large. She is growing a large army to fight in the end times, Ragnarok, and so she has all manner of fearsome beasts and Jotuns and giant wolves and all these serpents, and she herself is the daughter of Loki Laufrisen, and a Jotun named Inga Ingormud. Anyway, it means offering sorrow, but so interesting that her daddy is Loki, who will also be part of the battle. So the story begins with Bruce Lee waking up in what I call the death fields. It's a field in a grave. It's like a shallow grave that you wake up in, and you're covered in this kind of slimy mess, and you raise up out of it. And these guards, which are the offspring of Gormander, the Hound of Hell, who guards the gate for Goddess Hell. He guards the gate of Hell. He's a massive wolf, and these are like wolf kind of humans, if you will, but they are under complete and total control, and they're like the policemen, the jackbooted thugs of hell, and they've got these little staffs that kind of shock you into submission. And they're raising the dead, if you will, and sending them on their way down the road to hell, where they have to cross the River of Swords and actually go through Hell's Gate, where there's Gormander, watching intently on who they are, making sure they're not supposed to be there. Usually it's no big deal. And it's kind of like a village, if you can think of a village that goes back 10,000 years. So you come upon, so Bruce is walking and he's like, this is interesting. I'm dead, I guess. This is the afterlife. Why are these people yelling at me and making me go this way? And he's compelled to follow the road, so he follows the road. And he gets to the gates of hell, and there's a sign, "Welcome to hell." And there's another sign, a homemade sign, that says, "Things just don't die here." That carries on in the storyline of the book later. But he walks through this place where these people, now in hell, when you die, you still have you get land. It's like 7 acres, where you can grow some crops, you can grow some food, you get a cow, you get a home. It's very simple, and so that's basically that's what you get. But in Bruce's case, he's an honored guest. He is an honored guest indeed. So everyone that sees him bows their head and nods. It's Bruce. He's here. And everywhere he goes, everybody's just kind of very strange. Quite the reception in hell. But you'll see in a minute, Bruce is just looking at everybody going, very interesting. Yeah. So finally he gets to the great halls of hell, and their storming gates castle. And there's a massive army outside of the castle, and they're all bowed their heads and bow. They're making their bows to him. They're paying their respects to the great Bruce Lee that's finally made it to hell. And he comes into the great hall, and There's Hell, the goddess Hell on her throne. The goddess Hell is a half corpse, half woman, and she was banished to Hell by Odin to handle the afterlife of the dead. So yeah, she's a little pissed. She can't go nowhere. So Bruce comes in and she says, "Welcome, come in. Please have a seat, have some drink, have some food." And Bruce is just standing there, just looking at all this, and all these warriors with these, weapons, and they're bowing their heads to him. And he goes, "Who are you, and what is this place?" The goddess Hell smirks and goes, "You are in Hell. You died, and now you are mine. And I have total control over you. You are the greatest warrior that's possibly ever lived, and now you will be the general of the greatest army that will ever march in Ragnarok. Take your place by my side and reign and command as a general of Hell." And Bruce Lee is just like, "Really?" When Hell gives you a command, it's usually obeyed, immediate response. So when she doesn't get a reaction out of Bruce, she's like, "Kneel before me and take my hand and show your allegiance. Do it now," in her commanding voice. And Bruce Lee just looks at her and goes, "No, I'm leaving. Bye." He turns around and walks away. Everybody that was bowed, even the goddess Hell, is like, "What the hell? What? How did this happen? Wait a minute. This doesn't happen in Hell to anyone. Everyone that comes to Hell is under goddess Hell's control. She controls them, every aspect." And she says, "Wait, I have your mother and your father here." Mother and father, and she beckons the mother and father to come out. And Bruce stops and turns around and looks at him. His mom and dad. I haven't seen you in years. You died so long ago. And he looks at them and they're like, "Son, please come to us. Please stay with us. Don't leave. Please, be the great general of the army. We will all have great fortune and fame and wealth." And Bruce Lee's looking at his mom and dad speaking. And he looks over at Hell, who's on her throne, moving her lips. And whatever, basically she's speaking, she's making them say what she wants them to say. Bruce Lee's, "I've seen enough of this treachery. I don't want any part of it." And he goes to leave. And this infuriates the goddess Hell even more. And she speaks, and she starts to speak. And if you can imagine somebody speaking in all the languages at once, but you heard your language and understood it, that's how she speaks. So I can't even imagine to mimic that one. "Let me tell you something, you insolent fool." But so she tries to command her, and you command him with her commanding voice in all the languages, and even in Chinese, because he knows Mandarin, right? Mandarin and in Chinese, and she's speaking to him, and insolence, and you cannot deny me. We are bonded in death. Your death, you are mine, and I hold you forever as long as I wish. And kind of stops Bruce Lee in his tracks. He goes, "No one owns me. I do what I want. And I'm leaving." And she's like, "No one leaves Hell. Stop him." and this large Jotun, a very large giant, if you will. And he comes up to Bruce Lee, and he's towering over him by at least 30 feet, and he reaches out to grab Bruce, and Bruce just does a quick little backflip, kicks his head off. This big Jotun goes flying. Jotun's head goes flying. Everybody's watching it. This is one of the most powerful Jotuns in hell. He's actually the one that trains with Yarminder, the Hound of Hell. So he's a pretty badass freaking monster, if you will, a Jotun. And Bruce Lee just effortlessly kicked his head off. And everybody was like, damn. And he keeps walking, walks through the village. Nobody dares to touch him. He just killed one of the most powerful beings in hell with a kick. Speaking of hounds of hell, what? I gotta go feed mine. Excuse me. Starving, huh? Are we starving? All right, here we go. Largest son of Jormungandr. Killed by Bruce Lee. With a single kick. A backwards somersault. A backflip kick. You know. And so Bruce keeps walking. He walks right out the gates of hell. And in the gates of hell, he experiences Niflheim, which is where the realm is. It's cold, it's dank, there's a mist. And as soon as he gets past the gate, he hears the goddess Hel, and she speaks at him and tells him that you'll be back. You'll be back. You cannot escape your fate. And Bruce Lee's just like, I make my own fate. And keeps walking. So that's Bruce walking out of hell. Soon after, he sees two black ravens that have been watching the whole thing. They're flying around, and they fly off. We know whose ravens those were. That was Hunin and Munin, Odin's ravens. So they disappear off into the horizon, and soon after, a Valkyrie comes and presents herself at Bruce Lee, and stops him, basically stops him in the path and says, I'm a Valkyrie, and I've been instructed by Odin to take you and carry you to Asgard, to Valhall, and where you meet Odin. We have some things to discuss. She's like, with your permission, I'll grab you and fly you there. And Bruce Lee's just like, Odin, huh? I've heard of him. He goes, no thanks, I'll walk. And the Valkyrie's like, it's a very long walk. And Bruce is like, I have time. Nothing else to do. Might as well walk. So she says, okay, I'll fly ahead and scout the area. Just follow me, and I'll show you the way. And so that's what happens. Bruce walks from hell through Niflheim to the Bifrost Rainbow Bridge, and walks into Asgard. Meets Heimdall. Heimdall is the guard of the Bifrost. Nothing escapes his sight, by the way. He's also in charge of blowing the Gaelyala horn when Ragnarok happens. So that's his thing. But he stands a lot. He's a guard. He stands and guards. And as Bruce is walking up to him, he nods his head. Greetings, Bruce. Please come in. And, we're expecting you. Come on in. And they walk. Finally, Bruce walks through the streets of Asgard and makes his way to Valhall, where Odin. By this time it's nighttime. I guess there's day and night anywhere. So he comes upon the hall, in massive hall, just a massive hall, and inside you can hear all the great warriors just yelling and feasting and drinking and talking about their exploits and having a grand old time. And the Valkyrie lands, goes through the hall, and says, Bruce Lee's here. And Bruce Lee walks in, and all the warriors are like, Skull! Welcome! And because they've all heard of him. Everybody's heard of him. Famous throughout all the 9 realms. So Odin is in the very back at his throne, and his ravens are sitting on his throne, on his shoulders. On his side is his spear, Gungnir, and he's drinking wine. He says, "Come, please, sit." And he's got he's got his attendants. He has some attendants, some female attendants, and they're sitting there with plates of food and all this amazing food. And it's just for him. There's a table set up just for him, and a chair, and so he can be properly seated. And here you go, man. Let's lay it all out for you. And Odin says, please, have some drink, have some wine, have some food. You must be very weary from your travels. And Bruce Lee's like, it was a nice walk. And Odin's like, you're crazy, man. You just walked out of hell. You must be very thirsty. And hands him a simple cup. I mean, a simple cup. It's like that big around. It looks like it's made out of maybe some wood carved. Hands it to him. Bruce is like, he's like, it's fun. And Odin is like, this is the wine I drink. It's from my own private stock. Bruce is like, I do need a drink right now. Good. And it's Odin's wine. And it's one of the most stoutest wines ever. And a little thing about Odin is he is vowed to drink nothing but wine, no food, no nothing, just drink wine until Ragnarok. And the wine actually sustains him. So it's some really good wine. So there's this elaborate setup, this elaborate table, elaborate chair, and he pulls up Odin pulls up a seat, at the table, and offers Bruce the seat as well. And Bruce looks at everything, looks over to the side, and sees an old bench. He sits on that. Kind of sips his wine. Doesn't say anything, just sits there. And Odin's like, I like this guy. Goes over there, gets a seat next to him, and they're drinking and they're talking, and Odin is like, how does one walk out of hell? Hell has such a grip on the dead. No one is allowed to leave hell, ever. Yet you're the only person who has. How is that? And Bruce is kind of chilling back, you know. He's got his wine, his little cup, and he noticed that when he drinks from this wine, this cup, he drinks it almost gone. It fills back up again. It's like, he's like, I like this cup. And Odin's like, yeah, whatever you put in it, it fills up. And it's never empty. And it's your will and your intent that drives it. So if you want more wine, it gives you more wine. And Bruce is like, that's how I walked out of hell. I willed myself to walk out of hell. And Odin is like, I don't understand. I have a son. His name is Balder. He's in hell. I've tried and tried and tried to get him out of there. I can't get him out of there. Hell will not relinquish him. Yet your will and your intent was so strong to deny the goddess hell that you walked out. And not only that, you kicked off the head of one of the most powerful Jotuns in hell under her charge. I think he might have been up to be a general. He was the offspring of the Hound of Hell, Jarmundr. And you just kicked his head off. Wow. It's like, even my son with his mighty hammer couldn't do that. Yet you did it like that. And Bruce was like, he was in my way. I had to do something. Faced with that reality, as I'm learning my reality, my new reality, I deemed it necessary to get rid of him. And do so in a manner that nobody else would dare get in my way. And it was just so I could leave. I didn't want any part of it. Odin is just like, wow, this is amazing. Odin is a man of wisdom, knowledge, also treachery. He knows. So he's wise, but he also has to err on the side of caution, because nobody walks out of hell like that. So there's also the possibility in Odin's mind that Bruce Lee is a spy sent by hell herself. So he asks the next question. He says, Bruce, how did you fight the urge to do her bidding, to do what she said? She has command, such a strong command. She commands all that is in her charge. And Bruce was like, yeah, I felt it. I felt the tug. I felt like someone telling me to go left, go right, and you go left, go right, because your life depended on it. But I thought to myself, I'm dead. Who can tell me that I'm going to die? And if I die, where do I go? I'm already dead. So, I get to do what I want. Nobody's going to tell me what to do, because there's no fear of death. There's no fear of human bodily harm. My body has died, yet still here I am, existing. I feel, I hear, I smell, I touch, I think, I eat, I drink, but I'm dead. So who is she to tell me what to do? She's not. She's not the boss of me. She has no control over me. Nor does anything or anyone. And Odin's like, yeah. Absolutely. You're right. Good answer. And then he explains, he proceeds to explain to him that you do grow old here. There's death. Gods can die. bodily harm can come to you. But in God's cases, we're divine. We have will and intent that is far beyond most beings. You seem to have more will and intent than we do. Ours was, we were born with it. Yours, you manifested and cultured in a mortal world. How is that? So your case, you're an anomaly. Not even the Nords, the deciders of fate, who look into the ponds, the puddles at the foot of Yggdrasil, and can tell the fates of all men and all beings. You know, Heimdallr, nothing escapes his sight. Yet he could not foresee. He could not see your death. He could not see what you were going to. He could usually predict who goes left, who goes right. Yours, he couldn't tell. It's like, I've watched you since you were born. With my ravens and with my Valkyries. I've even sent adversaries and foes to take you. Yet you defeated them all. And by some strange way, Hell, who had been trying to kill you the whole time, to deny you, to deny my claim over you, because if you die in battle, you come to Valhalla to fight my war. It's an honor. It's a volunteer honor. All warriors are kind of compelled to do it because that's what they do. Warriors are warriors. It's hard to change that. And we have the greatest training facility in the universe. During the day we fight and we die. We hack ourselves to death. And at night, everyone is revived, and we feast and talk about what we did and what happened. And Bruce Lee's like, that's amazing. That's the best training that he's ever heard of. And Odin's like, I know, right? And you, being one of the greatest martial artists and have trained all your life, and your dedication knows no bounds. The only bounds that you had were your physical limitations, which you overcame to become one of the best. So that's what I offer here. And yes, we have a war to fight at the end, and I'm trying, and I, Odin, and the rest of us here are trying to stop the evil goddess Hell. And we're willing to do anything to that end. I myself, Odin, am prophesized to die. Most of the guys that you see here are going to die in this battle. The Nords don't know your fate. Nobody knows what's going to happen to Bruce Lee when this happens, when Ragnarok happens. And Odin's like, I would be honored for you to just be a part of my war band. It would be an honor to fight and die with one of the greatest warriors. But I know that you are Bruce Lee, and you're going to do whatever you want to do. I cannot stop you. No one here can stop you. So Bruce Lee is just sitting here sipping this wonderful wine. It's very strong, it's very stout. He feels himself getting revived and refreshed and relaxed all at the same time. He's like, wow, this is great wine. Not much of a drinker, but this is great wine. I like it. And Odin says, it's made from the apples. Keep us young. Yeah. Great stuff. But it's like, you keep it. Keep the cup. It's yours. And whatever you put in it, you can eat from it, drink from it, food, wine, whatever you want to put in there, it will always fill back up if you wish it to. If you want more wine, boom, there's more wine. There it is. And whatever you put in there, it'll always be, it's kind of like a memory. Your cup has a memory. And if you want some more of this wine, you're just walking around, you just pull the cup out of your pocket and go, there it is, it's there. Whatever you want. Eat some bread, throw some bread in there and eat it, and there's more bread. It's amazing. We have some amazing artisans and amazing dwarves and elves that make amazing things. Which I have one more thing to give you, which I'll give you tomorrow. But all I ask is that you sit with me and talk with me, and we don't have to talk about anything pressing. We can discuss matters of unimportance and just enjoy each other and enjoy the feast and enjoy the festivities. And tomorrow we will all gather on the field and we're all going to fight, and you're welcome to join us if you will. Bruce is like, I like that. I definitely want to see this training session that you have, this dojo, if you will, this kwan, and I'll be in attendance, I think. And as Odin and Bruce are sitting off the side on some old benches, talking and discussing and just laughing and whatever. The other side of the room is Thor, Odin's son. And Thor is a very vengeful and jealous god. And he's just sitting there like, what the hell? This little guy, this little pipsqueak is commanding my father's ear. My father is right in there just eating it up and giving him all the attention and everything. Thor could easily be arguably a little childish, like the Bam Bam, but one of the most powerful beings in all the 9 realms. I mean, he hunts giants and kills them. Or Jotun. But Thor is just from the other side of the room, just kind of just a little jealous. He's not feeling love right now from his father. So night goes on. The warriors are feasting and drinking, and Bruce and Odin are talking and discussing things, and people are starting to pass out and just fall out wherever they may, because hey, you're eating and you're drinking, so and there's attendants running around. They're putting little pillows under people's heads, and so you have this. So everybody passes out. So I'm running out of time. In the morning, everybody raises up. Maybe there's coffee. I don't know. Is there coffee involved? Sure, why not? You have a breakfast, a hearty breakfast, because you're going to war. Drink your coffee, smoke your pipe, whatever. So everybody's gathered out, and Thor is out with the group, and he's yelling at everybody, getting everybody all riled up, and rah, we're gonna have a great battle, rah. Pick your side, one side over here, one side over there, and they're facing off, and so Odin and Bruce emerge out, into the sunlight up from the door from the Great Hall, and they're still together, just hanging out, and Bruce has still got his cup. And he's just hanging out watching, and Thor sees them, and he's got his great hammer, and he's, you puny little man. And Bruce Lee, obviously, me, starts just berating and belittling Bruce Lee, and you're nothing. You're just a mere mortal from Midgard, and you seem puny, and I don't know how you got here. Or one blow from my hammer and you would be cremated, And Bruce Lee's like, looks at Odin, goes, "That's my son." Odin says, "That's my son," and Bruce Lee goes out. Just kind of walks out there with that classic smirk on his face, like, "Okay, yeah." And Thor is just getting more and more irate and belittling, And Thor overpowers Bruce Lee. Is like a good 7 foot tall, and here's Bruce Lee. Is 5'6", 5'5", 5'6", 5'7". I forget how tall he was. Anyway, so they're arguing. Thor is arguing. He's getting very mad. He's very heated. He's very well known for being, in your face and boisterous. And I'm going to leave it right there. And we're back. Hopefully I have enough time to finish this story. So, Bruce Lee is out in the battlefield of Valhalla, faced with Thor, Odin's son. And Thor is berating Bruce Lee, and calling him names and calling him everything and working himself up into a frenzy. And Bruce is just sitting back, just with that classic smirk on his face, and everything that Thor is calling him, and Bruce Lee's just like, "Oh, is that right? Oh, really?" And it's just name calling. It's just him. It's just Thor throwing insult after insult after insult at Bruce, and Bruce is just gangsta. He's being gangsta about it. He's like, "Whatever, bro. You ain't got nothing." And but so Thor is berating Bruce. He says, "I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this mighty hammer. It's bigger than you, and I'm going to squash you like a boom." Bruce Lee hits the hammer, which hits Thor in the face, knocking him down with the hammer still on Thor's face. Because Thor was about to knock him out. He was about to crush Bruce Lee with the hammer. So Bruce, bam, hits the hammer, lays out Thor. Thor is sprawled out, hammer on his face, on the ground, and everybody is like, "Oh, he killed Thor." Even Odin, standing there with his great spear. Just so happens I have one right here. Raises his spear and looks over at Bruce like he's going to throw this spear. And this spear, Odin's spear, Gungnir, never misses its mark. Always hits its target. It's never impeded in its throw. So Bruce is standing over Thor, the mighty Thor, sprawled out on the ground. Bruce kneels down next to Thor, takes the hammer, throws it over his shoulder. One of the thing about Mjolnir, because that's what Thor was talking about, this mighty hammer, Mjolnir, only I can wield it, it's the most powerful weapon, da-da-da-da-da. Only those who are worthy, and I'm the only one worthy enough and capable enough to wield this hammer, and I'm going to take this hammer, and that's when Bruce hit him. So Bruce just takes the hammer off his face and throws it over the back of his shoulder, picks up Thor into a setting position, kind of slaps him on the back a little bit, slapping him, holding his head. Thor is knocked out. He's not dead. He's just knocked the fuck out. And Odin's like, ugh. And Odin chuckles. Son just got knocked out. A humbling moment. Thor is one of those very hot-headed, hot-tempered, fly by the seat of his pants, head first into battle, never thinking, never, he'd rather use his brawn than his brain. And so Odin is always, throughout the course of his life, always trying to teach his son to think and to humble himself as well. Thor is not a very humble person. So this was a very humbling moment for Thor, being knocked out by his own hammer by a little Chinese man named Bruce Lee. So Bruce Lee gets him up to a sitting position, and Thor is just like, whoa. Seeing twee birds flying around his head and stars, looking at the black lights, I'm sure. You guys know what I'm talking about. The black lights. But Bruce takes out his little cup, fills up with wine, throws it in Thor's face. Thor's like, shit. What happened? He's out of it. He's just totally out of it. And, Bruce Lee stands up, walks over to Odin, goes, please excuse me for, my transgressions, if you will. I must be going. And by the time that Thor is being revived, he's still on his ass. He's got some attendants that are some guys are trying to help him up to his feet, and he's still on his ass. They're lifting him up, and he falls back down. And obviously nobody can pick up his hammer. His hammer's embedded in the ground over there. Nobody can touch it. So just leave it there. It ain't going nowhere. So finally they get Thor to his feet, and they're kind of carrying him off to the side, to have a seat somewhere and to gather himself after being thoroughly defeated in one blow by Bruce Lee's punch. So Odin goes, that was amazing. Before you go, I have a gift for you. It's a pair of nunchucks. I made these long, long ago by the dwarves and elves in hopes that one day I could bring you into my fold, bring you into my hall. And I was going to gift you with this weapon, your weapon of choice. But it's obvious you don't need a weapon. You are a weapon yourself. But please accept this gift. You're probably going to need it in your travels, and keep the cup as well. So these nunchucks were built. They're light as a feather. They will never break. Yet when you swing them, the weight of the world is behind them. He's like, good to know. And Bruce Lee picks them up. Yep, that'll do. Puts them in his back pocket and says, thank you. Thank you for your hospitality, Odin. But I must be going. I want to see this new world. All these new worlds. Maybe our paths will cross again. And Bruce Lee bows gracefully. Odin bows gracefully. Take care, my friend. Journey well. And off Bruce goes, walking down the path, out of Asgard, into the unknown. I'm going to leave it there. So that's the beginning story of Bruce. It carries on and carries on. So I hope you enjoy this. and there's more to come. I feel compelled to tell these stories, and I hope you like them. I hope you like them. It's my continuation of the Norse mythology, if you will, and there's so much to say. So this is Mad Shad, encouraging you all to continue to train, continue to prep, and continue to tell stories. Because even in our head, it's a mad, mad world out there.